Welcome, Storytime lovers. I'm bubbling over with excitement today as I'm dying to share with you two biographies that were recently published about the inspiring life story of Kamala Harris. Whether you are a child or a grown-up, I'm sure that you watched last week's swearing in of the 46th Vice President of the USA, and you might also have watched young Amanda Gorman, who was reciting her moving poem, The Hill We Climb. I was all goosebumps and misty eyes just listening to her. But back to Kamala Harris. Why am I so excited to recommend these two books about her? Well, simply because she's the first everything. The first female vice president, the first African American vice president, and the first Asian American vice president. But before reaching the top of the hill, she was also the first in groundbreaking positions. And these two books are really wonderful in giving children access to her inspiring life. The first book, Who is Kamala Harris, is part of the famous Who Was biography series, which I'm sure you've heard of. The Who Was collection is a series of illustrated biographies for young readers featuring significant historical figures, including artists, scientists, and world leaders. It's aimed at children in middle grade, so between 8 and 12. The second one is a picture book, and it's called Kamala Harris, Rooted in Justice, and it's more aimed at 6 to 10-year-olds. And now let's take a closer look. In Rooted in Justice, Nikki Grimes frames Kamala Harris's life in a conversation between Eve, a little black girl, and her mother. Eve has had an upsetting day at school because a boy has told her that girls can't be presidents. That's when her mother brings up Kamala Harris and starts telling her about her life. The first double page of Kamala's life is such beauty and music to the ears and the eyes that I have to read it to you.
Life is a story you write day by day. Kamala's begins with a name that means lotus flower. See how her beautiful smile opens wide, like petals fanning across the water's surface. But you don't see the flower's roots. Her roots, they grow deep, deep, deep down. Let me show you.
And this is what makes this book so compelling to me. It is both poetic and informative, explaining, for example, Kamala's origins and her parents' involvement in the civil rights movement, but also managing to explain the heartbreak of her parents' separation in a soothing, poetic language.
Having a long-distance daddy can make your heart hurt, but Kamala's new neighbors welcomed her family with smiles and helping hands, warm as sunshine.
Throughout the book, the vivid and striking imagery illuminates the author's prose by successfully capturing Harris's expressions and experiences. And I especially like this illustration of Kamala Harris's rise, with the artwork really illustrating the words.
Kamala was finally ready to climb the mountain of her dreams. First, Deputy District Attorney. Next, the first female District Attorney of San Francisco. Then, the first black woman Attorney General of California. Peak by peak she rose, eventually becoming the second black woman voted into the U.S. Senate.
All in all, both the artwork and lyrical prose work together hand in hand to deliver a powerful and uplifting message about Kamala Harris's perseverance. And now let's talk about who is Kamala Harris. And let's take a moment to understand and explain the choices made by the illustrator on the book cover. The illustrator has clearly chosen to put forward Kamala Harris's infectious energy and positivity by showing her beaming at us, holding a microphone and taking the stage to make a speech. In the background, we can make out two flags. The one on the left is easily recognizable. It's the Stars and Stripes. But what is the second one? Do you know? Yes, it's the flag of the state of California, also called the Bear Flag, which is a hint at some of the top jobs she occupied in California. And you'll have to read the biography to find out more. The book in itself is very straightforward and informative, as is reflected in the table of contents. The titles each refer to the stages of her life and career: Shyamalan The Girls, For the People, DA, First and First, Veep. What makes the biographies in this collection really accessible is that although they go into detail, the language used is always very simple and clear. Let's just read the introduction to give you an idea.
On August 11, 2020, a US Senator from California named Kamala Harris tweeted, "Black women and women of color have long been underrepresented in elected office, and in November, we have an opportunity to change that. Let's get to work." 3 hours later, Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden tweeted, "I have the great honor to announce that I've picked Kamala Harris, a fearless fighter for the little guy and one of the country's finest public servants, as my running mate." Kamala Harris, the senator from California, had been selected to be the Democratic candidate for vice president. She was taking the opportunity to make the change she had just talked about. The choice made sense in many ways. Kamala was an experienced politician. She had won several races for public office in her native California. She knew how to campaign, and she agreed with Joe Biden on many issues. But even in 2020, his choice of Kamala was a bold move. There were still many people who didn't believe a woman could hold a leadership position like vice president. Geraldine Ferraro and Sarah Palin had both run for vice president. Hillary Clinton had run for president. Kamala was only the fourth woman and the first woman of color to run at this level.
The book does contain illustrations in each chapter, such as this one, where she is wearing her now famous go-to Converse shoes. And at times, the author takes a break in the narrative to give cultural context and provide information, such as explaining what HBCUs are. And of course, at the end of the book, you get a timeline of Kamala Harris's life and also a timeline of world events. So, which book is for you? Well, there's the obvious fact that Who is Kamala Harris is aimed at older children, but I would also say that the two books complete each other. For instance, Kamala's professional rise is enumerated in the picture book, but not necessarily explained, and so the adult is left to fill in the gaps and give explanations. Whereas in Who is Kamala Harris, the author takes the time to give definitions, and for example, to explain what a DA is or what a prosecutor is. The picture book is more accessible to younger children by focusing on the values that led Kamala Harris to where she is today: ambition, hard work, freedom, and justice. Whereas Who is Kamala Harris is more informative and more appropriate for a child who's looking for a detailed biography, or maybe who wants to prepare a presentation on her life for a class project. So there you go, 2 great books to discover this amazing woman who is still on her way and far from done. And you may want to watch out in your bookshops, as I'm sure that new books about her life are bound to come out in the next months. Thank you so much for listening. See you soon and take care.